Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Alan Crone on the line, and he's founder and CEO of the Crone Law Firm. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Adam. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
All right. Well, I'm excited to have you on the line today, and we don't get to talk to Memphis all the time, so I'm looking forward to having some fun today and getting into your firm and also into your background. But before we do any of that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Alan, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Alan, what mission matters to you?
You know, at the Crone Law Firm, our mission is to help employees, executives, and entrepreneurs in legal matters that affect their ability to be breadwinners and pursue the American dream.
Yeah. It's a great mission, and I'm glad to have you on the phone and on the line to really highlight it and talk about maybe some of the rights and some of the things that people think about when these situations arise, because there are options. So I'm glad to have you on. And maybe just to get us kicked off here, a lot of things you could do when you go through law school, a lot of different types of law you can practice, a lot of different directions. Tell us a little bit more about your decision to kind of go this route and found the Crone Law Firm.
Well, that's a long story, but I think it really starts with my decision to pursue employment law. And like a lot of things, whether it's the medical field or legal field or other similar fields, your first job kind of shapes what you do. And my first job, I had a lot of employment law assignments along with other assignments, and I really enjoyed employment law. First of all, it's never boring. It's like having a ringside seat in the assistant principal's office of a high school. all the drama comes through HR, right? So I enjoyed that part of it. It was never dull. And then the other thing about it is it's so incredibly important. It's incredibly important for a company to have good employment practices because it's good business. Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly important for employees and executives that they be treated fairly, because your job is the most important relationship you have, except for your significant other, your spouse, mm-hmm. your partner, life partner, or what have you. And the financial, economic, and lifestyle implications of being either treated unfairly at work or unjustly fired or not being successful, the stakes are too high not to pursue your rights when you need to.
And so, fast forward a bit. So you obviously started, or as you mentioned, you initially had a lot of employment, and a lot of cases to deal with employment law. And at some point, you kind of, I guess, in other forms of business, we have oftentimes say, you niche down. So can you maybe talk about, a little bit more about your niche? Because I just want to be clear to make sure everybody follows. So is this things like being unlawfully fired or sexually harassed or like other things, discriminated against? Is this kind of part of the specialty?
That's part of what we do. We mm-hmm. also represent folks that are subject to non-compete agreements. Mm-hmm. We also, from time to time, enforce non-compete agreements or help folks that are owners of businesses. Sometimes they have to get divorced from their business partner. We call those business divorces, and we work on those. We do a lot of HR compliance. It's basically any legal dispute or matter that affects your ability to make money. So we draw the line. We don't do any family law, but we represent entrepreneurs and help them with their businesses. We don't represent a lot of big companies because we just don't feel that's our mission. We represent people, and some of those people may own businesses, so we help them with that. So, I've got probably a more expansive definition of employment law that a lot of lawyers would have. But again, I try to, as you say, I've niched down to that, and it's something that we really, really enjoy doing. And most of our clients are executives or employees looking for help navigating both legal and practical waters with, with their employer.
Now, I feel like when it comes to employment law, and I don't want to stereotype, but many times people, kind of employers specifically get themselves, on the wrong side of that because sometimes they just don't know, or a lot of times people aren't trying to do something incorrect. Now there's the outliers, of course, but many times that's not the case. Maybe somebody's getting themselves in trouble just because they simply didn't know about a particular law or a particular policy or something that they're supposed to be doing. I don't want to generalize too much, and obviously this is only a podcast interview, so we recommend people get specific advice by either following up and calling you to ask questions or otherwise. But in general, are there any themes or things that you find that maybe kind of come up over and over and over again as you kind of go through your day-to-day when it comes to business owners just being kind of caught off guard, for lack of better words there?
Well, I think the classic example is in compensation. The Fair Labor Standards Act, which is essentially the minimum wage and overtime law, is very complicated. It's got a lot of regulations to it. And that's probably the area where most business folks get unintentionally or unwittingly on the wrong side of the law or wrong side of compliance. And so most organizations of any size probably, as we speak, have a overtime violation brewing in their workforce. Just because it's so hard to properly apply those laws. And it doesn't matter what your job description says oftentimes. It matters what's going on in your business. And so you can have a job description that's perfectly in compliant, but if you've got a manager, let's say, who's asking people to work off the clock, or you have a manager that has deleted some duties for a particular person that that position would have been exempt from overtime, but because you deleted some of their judgment and autonomy, they're no longer exempt from overtime. So that would be in terms of what's the most unintentionally violated. It's probably the wage and hour laws. Now, the name of your podcast is perfect for my philosophy, because I really believe that on a grander scale, most businesses get in trouble because they don't understand what their mission is, and they're not organized around their mission. And so a lot of the things that you talk about in employment law, sexual harassment, racial discrimination, age discrimination, retaliation, all of those things could be avoided if your first question is the decision I'm about to make, is it mission driven? This decision I'm going to make, is it mission driven? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably okay. Yeah. Am I firing this person for a mission driven reason? Can I identify the mission driven reason? And for example, in a business like mine, attention to detail is mission driven, and that's reflected in our core values of excellence and reliability. And if I've got an employee who's not paying attention to detail, and I can show them, look, here are 4 pieces of deliverables where you made these mistakes, and it's not judgment mistakes, it's a mistake in that you didn't copy over the numbers right, or you got these dates wrong, or whatever the detail is. And so I'm going to do some discipline or some training or whatever it might be. It might be fire the person because they've repeatedly done those things. Well, that's mission driven. And I can point to why that's contrary to our values and contrary to our mission. And so if I'm hiring people that pay attention to detail, and I understand what I need in each job, I'm much less likely down the road to get a claim or even have to fire that person because I'm hiring to my mission rather than hiring because I got a good feeling about the person in the job interview.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a high level consideration. And of course, as you say, you know, the devil's in the details, and so each situation is going to vary. But I'm always struck by how disconnected the hiring and training and discipline functions, how disconnected they are from the company's mission and the company's business output.
Wow, what a great explanation. And I've never heard anyone else talk about like link mission to this, but what you said makes it became pretty obvious. Like, when you said it, I'm like, yeah, that's true. If you were using that almost as like the lenses at which you make a decision, and really aligned on your mission and what matters to you the most, as a company in general, then in theory you should be able to maybe not find yourself in certain situations. So man, great explanation, Alan. I'm curious. So, you know, people will listen to this. People will think, you know, many times self-identify and reflect and think about what they can do better in their lives and in their companies. Is there, I mean, in my experience, most people don't really always think about employment law as a proactive thing, more times reactive, like they got this situation, they got this complaint, they got this thing that they didn't know they were supposed to do, and, you know, now they have to deal with it, or they messed up on something, right? Is there a way to be proactive on the employment law side of things for business owners? Like what does that look like?
Well, the way I explain it to my business owner clients is the first thing is you've got to rethink how you approach employment law. And you've got to not think of it as a requirement, but think of it as good business. It is good business not to discriminate against people. It is good business to pay your people fairly and to pay your people legally. And so if you approach it as something that if you work through it, it's going to improve your business, then you're going to be more motivated to do it, and you're going to get a better outcome. And I'll give you a great example of something that most people give short shrift to that have huge legal implications, and that if you get it right, have huge business implications. And that is the lowly job description. Doesn't matter what level you are, there are few executives that really embrace and enjoy writing job descriptions. In my experience, most people see it as a chore that they'd rather not do, and so once they've got a job description, they write it and they leave it there. Well, it is, again, it goes back to mission, right? So let's say you're going to create a position in your company. First of all, you need to do it intentionally. You know, what do I need this role to fill? How does it further my mission? What are the essential functions? What are the essential expectations? What is it going to take for somebody to be successful? Really think all those things through. If you go and you just get, you know, a job description for, you know, executive assistant off of a form website and just throw it in, chances are it's not going to be customized to your situation. And chances are after a few months in the position, no one's ever going to look at the job description again to orient themselves on what they should be doing. Well, that's a situation where if that multiplies over a whole bunch of positions, now you as an executive, as a business owner, you really have no idea what's going on in your organization. And as opposed to where you have crafted each position to and you really understand how that position adds value to your organization and how it propels your mission, accomplishing your mission, so that when the person, a candidate reads your job description, they get excited about the mission, they get excited about the job, or they don't, or maybe they read it and say, well, this isn't the job for me. You would much rather hire that first person than the second person. And if you don't really know what the job is, how can you communicate that to potential candidate and then hold them accountable and communicate expectations if you don't understand what those expectations are? So I think that's an example of it. And then the legal ramifications, your job description, let's say that you get an ADA claim, and the person says, you're not giving me a reasonable accommodation. And the job description is usually the first place that everybody goes to begin that analysis. Well, if it's apples and oranges to what's actually going on in that job, then not only is it not helpful, but it becomes something that's used against you. So you've got to constantly be updating those things. And again, it shouldn't be seen as a chore. You're constantly updating and understanding what's going on in your organization. And, that's a kind of a boiled down explanation of that. But that's just one example of many, many facets, many things that are going on in every business right now that if the business owner paid more attention to it in a positive way, your business would be better, but then you would also wouldn't have the distraction of so much legal drama.
Great. Well, Alan, I mean, you've provided some very actionable tips today, which I definitely appreciate, and I know our business community and executives that are listening will also appreciate and benefit from as well. That being said, if somebody wants to continue the dialogue and to follow up and connect with you and your team over at the Crone Law Firm, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there are a couple of ways. One is our website, CroneLawFirmPLC.com. You can find us on the web there, and there's lots of information there. You can contact us there. And then also, you can go to Amazon and buy my book, which is The Law at Work by Alan Crone. There I break down in a similar way a lot of these concepts and explain the legal concept using stories and illustrations. It's not written for lawyers, it's written for people. And hopefully, after you've read that book, whether you're someone who is hired, is an employee or an executive, or you're a business owner or an executive trying to apply the law to your company, I think it's a two-way street on that. You'll understand a little bit better how the law works and how you can make the law work for you.
Fantastic. And we'll put that information in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging with the platform or listening to an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, and really what we can all learn and gain from that so that we all grow together. Again, Mission Matters is all about growth and growing together. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we encourage you and ask you to hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Alan, really, it has been a pleasure. Thanks again for making some time today and giving us some education. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Adam. Good luck to you.